All right.
Bubba Ray, you ready? Billy Ray?
Billy Ray?
Billy Ray, are you ready? Good. All right. You have been such a great friend for so long. And I can't only say, but for myself, but speaking on behalf of so many guides in the Keys. I'm talking from Miami to Key West. You mentioned the name Doug Kilpatrick. Their heart bleeds for you and your constitution, your ethics, your moral compass, your friendship. You set the standard of love. I'm telling you. And I just got to tell you that you and I have fished for so many years. We won tournaments together, but more importantly, you've been a brother, and I got to thank you so much.
You've been a brother too, and it's nice words from you, and I like. It's nice to hear that people think like that, but I don't know if they all do, but
no.
but yeah,
no, they do.
It's nice.
Well, you've had such a big life, and you've affected and been so exposed to so many people in the Keys through tournaments. You've been down here for a long time, and let me just kind of go through some of the stuff that I'm talking about for our audience. You're now in the board of BTT. A huge conservationist. You were president of the Lower Keys Guides Association, which obviously just recently the referendum has been passed. And that started a long time when you were working, but let me go through here a little bit. You've won 4 tournaments, the Del Brown Permit, 2 March Merkin Permit Tournaments, 3 Permit Tournaments, the Golden Fly with me, over 60-some world records. You've caught 34 permit this year. And you have really mentored a lot of the younger, guides. So your spectrum is huge, but not only here in the Keys, but you had a home in Cody. You're a prolific hunter, bow hunter. You've been attacked by bears. I mean, if you take a look at the spectrum of your life, how old are you now?
Well, I'm 49, just turned 49.
49.
And
so what is the most meaningful part of what I've just read off? If you can just kind of focus in for a second, because they change.
The most meaningful part is friendships, and I would much rather be remembered as a good guy than any of that.
Right.
And conservation, I think it's crucial that we protect our resources as population grows, more people out there fishing. Excuse me, but I think for the future. We need to protect our fishery and the environment that sustains it. Oh, by the way, I didn't get attacked by the bear. It was friends of mine, and I was there, but across the draw. But,
you were there.
But anyway, I just wanted to clear that up because okay. I did not. But I always want to come clean if something's not quite right. So anyways, yeah, I think conservation achievements would be the proudest moments of my life. And some we're still working on.
Right.
Barracudas. I had a lot to do with the barracuda issue, and they were being slaughtered, and we were seeing them. The numbers were way down, and they're already back. And it's
so basically, you have banned the commercialization of catching barracuda.
There's now slot limits, and they're only allowing so many per boat. So it's helped immensely because people were going out with basically just a products license, which you and I could go buy at the courthouse tomorrow, and they would go out because barracuda was an unregulated species. You could go out to spawning areas and they were spearing them or just trolling around the towers out in the Gulf and just slaughtering them. And these are all spawning fish. When they're doing that, those are spawners.
Right.
So we were seeing the flats fish disappear.
Decimated.
I mean, we were, when I started guiding, you go out with tubes out west of Key West or even in the back here, and it was not uncommon to get 50 bites and catch 20 25 kudas in a day. And it got to where it's like 6 7, you're going, oh boy, we're in trouble.
Right. And in the winter, because obviously the tarpon are not around, permit fishing might not be so good, so it became a very sustainable sport to go catch kudas with flies and tube lures for your customers.
It's
and
phenomenal.
It's a great fish.
Phenomenal fish. I mean, they run off 100 yards and they're greyhounding, and the bites are insane. It's just, why not? We need to take care of that fish.
Right.
And so I mean, those are the achievements that I would be the most proud of. We still have a lot of work to do, and there's permit spawn that we would like to protect. Who knows how things will evolve with tarpon, but there's definitely work to do and science to be done, and BTT's been doing a great job with the science end of it. And economic studies are important, because the flats fishing industry just in Monroe County alone is over a $300 million industry a year. And that was recession numbers.
Right.
Those numbers were taken in 2009. So here we are, in 2020, I would love to see another economic study through when the market was screaming and how many people were coming down. I would love to see the numbers now.
11, 12 years later. It's gotta
they've got to be huge.
Right.
And I think when you get the science and the economic numbers, now you got something to go to FWC with,
you have
or
leverage.
fisheries. Yeah, you have some leverage. And I think it's important for people to understand the value of these fish. I mean, I think I've just recently heard that a bonefish over its lifespan is worth about $70,000 economically. So
you put that in the eyes of the Bahamian people and the Cuban people and the people of Laurel Keys. I mean, we've been catch and release for a long time, but you go to places like Belize,
right?
Especially like the Bahamas.
Yeah.
People that have netted them and have eaten them for so long.
Right.
But BT2 is also set up like national parks over there. So now they're protected.
And BTT's been doing a great job. And Ross Busek at Bonefish Tarpon Trust is a great scientist, and he's hands-on. He comes and meets with us, talks to us, gives us all the numbers. And we actually participate some with him. Yeah. But getting back to Belize is protecting permit more than we are right now. So, we need to get on the stick with our permit. It's contentious, between the light tackle guides, offshore guides, and us. As you know, we're trying to get this zone, this 1.3 square mile zone, not all of Western, just a little area where they spawn. We're trying to get protection on that for 3 months.
And that's not a lot to ask for. 3 months is just a little period of time.
In my opinion, it's not a lot to ask for. In fact, we've been to a few light tackle guides and talked about it. And we even tried to help them with being able to net bait in certain areas that the sanctuary might want to close. So I was hoping we could work together and get some good work done for the fish. And in the long run, we'll have more fish for both of us.
Yeah.
So,
it's understood for sure. Let's go back to your childhood and your early fishing years.
Mm-hmm.
What stands out most vividly?
Oh gosh, what stands out? I remember as a kid, in fourth grade when I woke up Christmas morning, and my parents had life jackets set out for me, and I said, life jackets? What's the deal? I got life jackets. I thought it was a kind of a cruel joke or something. And I was sleepy-eyed, I guess, and I didn't notice this ribbon that was tied to my bedpost that went all the way outside, and there was a little aluminum 12-foot aluminum John boat with my name on the side, painted yellow, I guess so they could see me or find me in case I got lost. But with a little Sears 3 horsepower on it. And I don't know, I just felt like, this is my world now. I can get out and go do things. And
freedom.
Of course, I had limits on where I was allowed to go, and you had to wear the life jacket and everything. But it was a great time in my life. I mean, if anybody's ever been around Little Lake Worth in that area, there's islands back there where you catch big jacks, and there's snook, and and everything from grabbing horseshoe crabs and racing them as a little kid, trying to see whose horseshoe crab would get first place. But I had a great childhood, And we did a lot of snook fishing later on in the Palm Beach Inlet, Jupiter Inlet. Did tagging for the Department of Natural Resources with a guy named Ed Irby, a biologist.
Wow. So you were already into conservation at such a young age.
Back then we just like catching fish.
Right.
And you go with a bait well full of pinfish and man, if you had 60 baits in there, you might catch 50 snook. I mean, you'd catch a ton.
Right.
And they were big ones, and it was fun for us just to pull on stuff. We were 30-pound big rods and just
breaking one on filament.
And the biologists liked it because here these kids they're willing to just go pull them in as hard as they can, as fast as they can, and you get a tag in them and get them out.
Oh, how awesome!
And it was cool. Like in college, I did a paper on snook, and it was neat because I had information that hadn't been published yet, and able to put it out in a paper.
Wow! So
it was kind of neat. Those were great times. And I did offshore fishing through West Palm as well. I worked out of Sailfish Marina on an offshore boat, mating.
What do you remember about that?
It was mainly sail fishing, stuff like that.
Did you like that?
Yeah. Oh, I liked it. I even had an offshore boat here. And after college, I went and I moved here. And it was kind of a temporary vacation, really. But I moved here because I saw a boat needed a hand as a mate again. So I went right back to mating after college with a college degree.
You were destined to be on the water somewhere.
And, I always wanted to be a fishing guide. And I wasn't sure when. I thought it would be some sort of thing you do after you retire from something else someday. And
what'd you study in college?
Marketing. Got a business marketing degree.
Did you like it?
I did. I liked it. I liked school.
You just like fishing more.
I didn't like school like when I was a kid. I found it interesting when I got to my major.
Right.
But fishing, I came back to fishing, and then I started wading some of the flats around the Keys with I had a duck hunting boat, and I would tie it around my waist and wade like off Sawyer Key and the contents and bonefish. And bonefish, still to me the best.
Really, the best.
Oh yeah, yeah.
More so than permit and tarpon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, tailing bonefish. That's if I had one day left to live, and you said, "What do you want to go do?" and I would say, "I'll go, wade for tailing bonefish, big
ones,
big ones."
You know what? I said that recently too. Maybe about a year ago, I was starting to assess my life in fishing, and all the great fish that we've caught together and permit fishing, and when I initially got down to the Keys and started doing tournaments with Harry Spear. We fished the spring and the fall fly and catching these big 12 and 13 pound bonefish and how cool they are.
Yeah.
Blowing mud and standing on their heads. And recently I thought it's so organic to be out there waiting on white sand or wherever alone.
Yeah.
There's nobody around.
Yep.
And it's you and a fish that's standing on his head out there.
Yeah. And permit fishing. I love permit fishing too, but if it was my last day, I wouldn't want to be rejected before I die. And your chances of rejection would be pretty good, right?
Sometimes it's really aggravating to retrieve your fly with a bunch of vomit on it.
Exactly. It's like, man, I'm gonna die without catching a fish the last day.
Yeah, you want to be successful, please. Thank you, Lord. So how did you end up down here as a guide?
Well, like I said, I'd always wanted to become a guide. And as I was working on the offshore boat, I was seeing skiffs running around, and I was out there messing around, waiting for the bonefish. And I figured, well, why not get my captain's license at night and after I'm done fishing? So I went and took a captain's license course in Key West and got my license. And my boss at the time had a flats boat, and I could run that flats boat for him. So I ran that a little bit, and I saved up money, and I got a down payment on a boat from it was one of Jose's old boats, and I bought a Maverick with a Mariner on it, and I bought it off Art Barton, a guy in Key West that would finance boats for for guys. And he financed the boat for me. I ran the boat for about 2 weeks and the engine popped. I should have known better if it was Jose's, it was going to pop. but anyways, so then I was like, oh man, I'm screwed. I got to get a motor. And then somebody introduced me to the Yamaha guy in Key West, and my ex-wife at the time was working at a bank in Key West, and I got a loan for a 90 horsepower 2-stroke and a Yamaha, and switched to that, and then I was kind of off and running.
Right. Who were the players down here at that point? I mean, who were the people you were looking up to? I mean, you mentioned Jose, and eventually Jose and Flip Pallet, and there those great TV shows, but Ralph Delph was down here.
Oh, yeah.
Trossett and the boys.
Yeah.
But who were the fly guys that you were aspiring to?
There was Bob Paulson, Simon Becker. Even though he was just a few years ahead of me, the guy is insane. He's still insane. Great fisherman and good dude. And then there's obviously Ralph Delph. I viewed him more as an offshore guide at the time, but I am very well aware of his inshore achievements, and they're big. Everything Ralph has done is huge. He's by far probably one of the greatest fishermen ever. But who else? There was Jose Marshall Cutchin at the time, and then Steve Huff. Steve Huff, but I knew of Steve, but I didn't meet Steve till later. But Steve was like by far who I looked up to the most when I started fly fishing. But Timmy Carlyle is kind of who I thought I was going to try to be. I wasn't heavily into fly fishing at the time. And then as I got more into fly fishing and started paying a little more attention to the tournaments and everything, I'm looking at Steve Huff's stuff and Harry Spear.
Right.
And I was like, holy cow, these guys are incredible. What they're doing. And, I'll never forget the first time I met Steve Huff. He was just such a gracious guy, to come out and shake my hand and say, I'm Steve Huff. What's your name? And my name's Doug. And and he took a business card from me. I'll never forget, because he says, I'm going to probably be moving out of the Keys some, and I'll maybe send some people your way. And I went home and I got Steve Huff took one of my business cards. I was so excited, but, and since we've actually fished together a couple times, and I've got to know him better, and his kids, and the whole family is nothing but great guys. Right.
An extension of all of our families and what we care for.
Yeah.
The spirituality of flats fishing stems from those guys.
Yeah. And that goes for Timmy Carlyle too. When I was younger, I would come down to visit the Keys with my parents, and I'd see Timmy Carlyle. My eyes would get big, and I was almost like afraid to talk to the guy. And now I tease him and make fun of him, play jokes on him. We're really great friends now. It's pretty funny how things work out.
Well, I could see how you could gravitate to Timmy because of your humor. You guys both love to laugh and do pranks on each other.
Yeah.
Give me one of your typical Timmy Carlyle pranks.
Oh gosh, I mean, I've done to him. I don't know. I just say there's a bird stuck in the grill of my truck. Can you help pull it out? And he'll lean over and I'll beep the horn. Just anything like that, to scare him. Try to scare.
He's
probably the bigger joker.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll put a werewolf mask on and hide in the ice machine, and we open the ice machine and
he jumps out.
He'll jump out and try to scare you, or put a fake alligator in the shrimp tanks, but he eventually got locked in that ice machine for doing that.
How about that picnic table over at the Sugarloaf Marina?
Yeah, the picnic.
I mean, the stories told
there's a lot of history there. I mean, all the old guides just go there and hang out. And Timmy's dad, I met him there, and Dan Key, and there was a bunch of great fishermen that would hang out there, and I think it was pretty cool. Times have changed, it was really neat when you'd come in and there was these guys that you always looked up to, maybe just having a beer or whatever. And then the clients come in, the clients would talk amongst each other. And you almost get to meet other guides' clients.
Sure.
And like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a year. You know, that was cool, really cool stuff. That's it's changed, but hopefully we can get that camaraderie back at some point. But a lot of guys have just died off.
Right. Well, one of your great customers forever was Fitz Coker.
Oh, he still is.
And how old is he now?
He's 84. And that guy's, you know, I can't say enough nice things about Fitz Coker. He's been a great friend, and he's family.
Right.
And his wife Dottie.
Yeah. And you cut a lot of world records with both Fitz and Dottie. She chased that.
We have, and we started doing that, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. But I'd been fishing Fitz prior, since my second year of guiding. And Fitz,
how many years is that now?
This coming April will be 26 years.
26 years. Because Fitz was around in the early years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he'd fished with everybody else.
60s and all that. Give me a Fitz Coker story.
Oh, gosh, there's so many good ones. But there's his fishing, you know, also he was very into big tarpon fishing. He didn't care much about permit, still doesn't. And but we had a lot of fun chasing big fish together. But he's always made me laugh. And there's one story in particular that I like to tell. And there was a time in Key West where this group from Miami would come down, and we'd leave out of Garrison Bite a lot in the morning in the dark. And this group would be there with their boats already off the trailer and everything, sitting there, and we'd put in, and you'd start idling out, and you notice that these boats start coming behind us. And I know what they were doing. They were learning places to go from the guides that were putting in the morning. So we're running out. We're through the Lakes Passage and the entrance markers of the Lakes Passage. And Fitz says, "Doug, stop the boat, please. I got to take a shit." And I said, "Okay." And I pull it back in neutral, and I look back, and this boat comes off plane behind us, and now the sun's coming up, and I see these guys take their binoculars and they start looking at what I guess they think we're going to start fishing right there, you know. And Fitz pulls his pants down and starts doing his business, and I said, "Well, Fitz, what do you think they're thinking now?" And he says, "Well, Doug, they're probably wondering who the bald guy is with the cigar hanging out of his mouth." So that's just one of many stories, but he's got it. We've just had some great times together, and I hope there's more to come. COVID kind of screwed it up this year for him, and you know, you got to worry about health when you're that age, and
sure.
So he's been kind of quarantined in Montana.
Right. How did, a lot of people over the years, you have Marty Arustagi that has attained all these records, and his son and his wife and Meredith McCord, and a lot of these records are, very, very small fish to get the certificate to get a record. And Dottie was one of these ladies. She's gotten over 100 some records, and you were fishing with her and attaining all these records. How did that make you a better guide, if it did in any way?
Well, it definitely.
I mean, was it ever like a pain in the ass? Because these are smaller fish and different fish, or did you embrace it?
I especially embraced it when there was nothing else to do. When it's cold and there's no tarpon around and permit, it's blown out, we can go in the lee of a shoreline and fish for bonnet head sharks, and on 2 or 4. And, I challenge anybody to catch a good sized bonnet on 2 pound. It's not easy. And especially starting from scratch without getting much input from other people on the tricks. So because
nobody fishes for bonnet heads for the most part, right?
And we had so many growing pains because I didn't have like a line of communication going with Steve Huff. Hey, how do you help me? How do I do this on 2? You know, so we went through a lot of the growing pains, and we learned a lot of ways to catch them. And it's interesting. I found it very interesting too. Like there's places in the lower Keys where there's 8 to 10 pound, maybe even 11 pound bonnetheads, but 95% of the whole lower Keys, they all are 5.5 to 7 pounds. And it's like the old downtown bonefish in Islamorada. You know, there's bigger fish that gravitate to certain areas. Same with the bonehead shark. And so it made guiding interesting. So you're bone fishing one day or permit fishing one day and you go, ooh, that sucker's 9 pounds. I just saw another one that could be 10. And now you go, I got to come back here with Dottie, you know? So it adds, keeps your mind ticking.
Right.
And it's fine. I find that interesting. And
it gives you a bigger spectrum too in your fishing.
It gives you a much bigger, and you also you're looking at other issues. Are there mangrove stumps around here? Can I do this on the low tide where it's not going to be flooded up and they're going to run into those trees, hit those stumps
and break you off.
Right. And same goes with small tarpon on 2 even, which we haven't had much success with, but we've hooked
piles. Obviously, yeah.
And it's amazing how bad they want those trees.
How different is it for you? Because now you're fishing obviously with Capt Linville, and she's attained 2 world record permits.
She did not get those with me.
But you fished with her, and you just finished 3rd in the men's permit tournament, the IGFA all tackle.
Capt is one of my favorite people to fish with. She is so dedicated. It's so cool to see someone that dedicated. I've never fished anybody over a 3-year period that has improved as much as Capt. Men,
is that anybody. Because she started at such a low level, or because she's just so dedicated and has worked so hard?
She did start at a low level, but even she gets better and better and better and better, and it's because she practices. She'll go to the park 4 or 5 days a week and throw and throw and throw, and back cast, forward cast. I mean, she's got it. She's really working hard at it, and she doesn't fish as much as everybody thinks she fishes. You know, she's going to school. She's works at the shop, and so when she's not fishing, she's practicing, and man, is it showing. And
I bet that was almost like a win for you to finish 3rd in that IGFA permit tournament with her.
Not really for me.
Kind of a win, though. I mean, you opened a lot of eyeballs.
Maybe, but
a win is a win.
But you want to win.
Yeah.
And Capt wants to win. Capt wants it. I want it. I want it as much for Capt as myself. But it's really, yeah, 3rd's, you know, you're in there, but you didn't win.
How did it feel to win all these permit tournaments and, you know, in the Golden Fly with me?
That was cool, man. I mean, when I was fishing the Golden Fly with you, it's funny, you know, your abilities were so good. We had fished quite a bit together besides the tournament, and I actually felt like you're expected, to win when you're fishing with Andy Mill. You know, so believe it or not, there's a lot of pressure there on the guide, because you're going, damn, if I don't win, that means I sucked, because Andy doesn't suck. Right. you know what I mean? So you know, there was some pressure there, and eventually, you know, we did get the Golden Fly together, and we did well, and that was a lot of fun, and I'll never forget some of the.
How about that last weight fish we caught?
Oh my gosh!
So here we are. We had a really big lead. We had like a 2,000 point lead in the first 2 days. That's 200-pound fish. Mm-hmm. Going into the last day, and I said, if we catch a big weight fish, I think they're gonna have a hard time catching us. and we go out into, the back country, and I think in the first 30 minutes we caught this big old fish.
Yeah.
Tell me about tell me what happened
Oh
there.
man, and that fish, as we strapped it, it, blew splooge all
Everything.
over the boat, and we were celebrating and screaming and yelling and high-fiving, and I don't know if it was you or me.
You did it first.
I took some of that and I just rubbed it in my hair.
Some of the white stuff that was spooged all over the boat.
What is that movie? Something About Mary or whatever. That's what it was like. We had the whole spike going.
I remember we
and everything.
spiked our hair with all the white spooge.
And
And then I took that.
That shit ends up burning you later.
Well, you know
on.
what
we
it was?
Were burning.
No, you said we're going into the poon house. We're going underground. We're gonna get some poon camo on, and the camo was the white spooge, and I'm spiking my hair. And then I thought, well, here's some brown stuff. Let's put some brown stuff on. And I put the brown stuff on my face, and it's like, oh no. And I felt like my face was going to boil up and peel off. I had to get that crap off of there.
It burns.
But the hair was fine. And by the time we went into the weigh station, we had a herd of flies that was about a mile long. And it took me about 6 weeks to get that crap out of my hair.
Oh, man.
How much fun was that? And then we go over and just
we start catching a bunch of releases that are all weights. And I'll never forget we had our little zone where we were catching them, and and there was another boat on the other side of the bank, and our fish took us to the other side of the bank with them,
right?
And then they jumped in our place, and then so we went in their place, and we had
our fish took us down by bow, and we released it, and that boat on the inside jumped the bank, and we started fishing where we were because we were catching all the fish. And I said, let's just go over there. There's fish over there too. We started whacking them over there too. I mean, it was just like perfect, know.
It was perfect light. Everything was right.
It's so much fun because you work so hard to learn, all these areas and how to catch these fish. But a lot of people would say, it's almost an oxymoron, tournament fishing. It's a contrast in words because a lot of times to go fishing, you just want to go enjoy yourself and catch some fish. But now all of a sudden you're putting all the pressure on yourself to ruin what we originally want to do by, while we go fishing.
Yeah.
But I think too, as somebody like myself and somebody like yourself, you spend so much time doing it. It's like, that's the only way to assess how good are you by jumping into that arena. And in that specific 3 to 5 days, everybody does battle.
Yeah, and that just proves who's the best that
week. Yeah.
And there's a lot, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I mean, I don't think tournament fishing is the best assessment of a guide. I think there's lots of other things, how you treat your clients, how you teach them, make them better. And not of them, most of them aren't going to be tournament fishermen. And fishing, I don't think is truly about tournaments. It's just about
fishing,
and
right.
It's good for the soul.
Right.
And I do believe that is the most important part of fishing. Tournaments we just get involved in because we want to test ourselves.
Right.
And you get a group of people that want to test themselves for the week and see how it goes. But tournament fishing will teach you a lot.
For sure.
It teaches you about preparation, knots, and hooks. I mean, everything from where tides where fish. It really elevates your level of thinking and preparation.
It demands you to bring out the best of your ability.
It does. It's, if anything, there's a fear of not doing well for me.
Right.
There's just I don't want to be, I just don't want to look bad.
Right.
And,
what, my question is it difficult after you have fished a lot of great guys over the years and winning all these tournaments, how difficult is it to fish somebody you don't know?
I enjoy it.
As a guide.
I enjoy it. I enjoy
teaching.
I enjoy spin fishing. Still, I love it. I think there's a time and place for it in my guiding. prefer to do it in the winter or the fall. But I think it's you got to bring people along.
Right.
And
that's a new client too.
That could be a whale of a client.
Right.
And you get to maybe bring this person along, and that's gratifying to take someone that wasn't so good and help them out with the cast, with presentation, and some of them are going to jump in with both feet, and some of them aren't.
Right.
You
never know.
It depends on their personality.
It's funny because a lot of the guys who've done this as long as you have their clientele, and they will not fish with anybody that they don't know, But in your career, you really had a bad shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Which put your career in jeopardy. Tell me about that.
Oh boy. Well, I was chasing down a school tarpon. I'll never forget when it happened. It happened on chasing a school tarpon down, and my push pole got stuck in the ground. I went, ooh, and it pulled my arm back. And for the next few months, I was just like in a lot of pain. And I went and got an MRI, and I had a labral tear, which is, that's not that big of a deal. So anyway, I go to surgery, I get surgery, and they put a pain pump in my shoulder, which administers a mixture of Marcaine and epinephrine through a little bolus where you pump it just like your primer ball on your boat. And it administer medication, and it administered
pain relief.
Yes, pain relief. And it administered it into the joint space. And it was really not supposed to be in the joint space, but it was. And it cut off my blood supply to my bones. So my bones died in my shoulder.
Because of that pump.
Because of that pump. So my humeral.
So the doctor was liable?
It would have been
malpractice.
It would have been an anesthesiology deal, and we did have malpractice suit, which we lost. We were going to be the first case to go to trial, and about this, and because it was there was proof in rabbits and pigs and stuff that it causes chondrolysis and osteonecrosis of the bone, so death of the bone. So we didn't have proof in humans. So there's a motion called a Daubert motion in federal court. We won't have to get into all the legalities, but we didn't have proof in humans. And basically it got thrown out on summary judgment. And then it went to appellate court and it was heard, and there's still not enough there. After the fact, many more people came out and they ended up winning all those cases, but that's okay. We lost. And, Joe Rodriguez told me a while back, he said, he's a good friend of mine. He said, you'll be a better man for it. And maybe so. And that's the way you got to look at it.
Right.
And you just go forward.
Because you can't fix it. But you had to have a shoulder replacement.
I had to have a total shoulder replacement.
Right. And your guiding career was probably at that point really very much in jeopardy because you couldn't push and pull your boat.
Oh, definitely was in jeopardy. I was told by doctors that I should look for a new career.
And how is it now?
Oh, it's not the best. But
you get along. I mean, when I fished with you recently,
I'm 13 years into it.
Right.
And yeah, it hurts every night for sure. I have to put a pillow under it every night, but I would rather be in a little bit of pain than not do something that I didn't love. And that's I went on to try and guide part of the year and run a lodge and everything, and I got thinking, I'm missing out on
I'm not a lodge owner.
I'm not. I'm missing out on what I really love to do.
Right.
And I want to fish. And I'm still going to just do it as long as I can. If I need to get another one, I'll get another one. I'm 13 years into this one, and the socket part's plastic, and I'm about worn through. But there might wear into the bone and start forming another socket. Who knows? We just got.
Right.
But until then, I'm going to live it.
Right.
and do it and go for it. And why not?
Well, I can't help but go back to the old saying, which is at the top of the show, which is a great metaphor for life, which was originally penned by Hunter S. Thompson, which was life's journey to the grave should not be one arriving in a pretty well-preserved body, but to rather skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly worn out, totally used up, proclaiming loudly, "Wow, what a ride!"
Yeah, that's like what I tell people. I'd rather wear out than rust out.
Right, same thing.
And I think I don't mind. I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah,
and to be honest, for a little while I was a little bit bitter, and bitter about losing the lawsuit, knowing that there was instructions to put it in the joint space, and then they put a false set of instructions in our deposition, tried to say it was in the surgical site. We caught them doing this stuff. We still lost.
Right.
So I was bitter. I was bitter for at least a year and a half. And finally I said, you got to quit. I don't know what happened one day. I don't know what, maybe I was out working in the yard or something. And I just went, you got to get over this, because you're only going to turn the people away that love you, your friends and your family, if you are bitter, and that's all you got.
Right.
I mean, so why
put it aside and
put it
move
aside
on.
and just go forward?
The darkest period of my life was when I went through a divorce, and it was during the Gold Cup, when I was told that my ex-wife didn't want to be married any longer. And then I went into this deep, dark hole and cried for 3 years. And you called me like every week. I mean, you were the best friend. And then, unfortunately, your ex-wife told you during the Gold Cup, you called me and said, you cannot believe what has gone down.
Yeah.
And then you fell into that dark hole. Your wife was sick. Long story short, she ended up, passing.
Yep.
And remember this book I sent you?
I do.
It's called When Things Fall Apart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You signed that, and you gave it, you sent me 2 books. There was another one you sent me, but it was great. But that's what friends do for one another. You lift each other up, and you lifted me up. I lifted you up. And that's,
it was funny because
that's what we do.
I had signed it, and you said, well, I'm going to sign mine and pass it to the next guy that has
there's going to be plenty more fishing guides that are going to need it. So
if you ever go through a really deep, dark hole, When Things Fall Apart, I promise you it will help you.
Maybe that'd be one of y'all's new sponsors.
Yeah. It'll probably be a top seller, because there's a lot of people who need help out there,
Well, Capt, Nathaniel's wife, but Capt, well, it's Valley, but everybody recognizes her as Cat Linville, but she's going through school right now to become a counselor. And we're like, when you're done becoming a counselor, you've got an instant clientele. You've got all these permit fishermen. You got all these fishermen that come to you. It's like you could just open shop like immediately.
There's a big part of the Keys that's crying on a daily basis.
Yeah, maybe they open a little thing in the back of the angling company where they can, where Cat's counseling,
Yeah, you could buy flies, strong arm permit flies in the front end, and there's a big couch you can rent on the back.
Just come in after fishing. We'll take care of you,
Tell me about your passions for hunting, and you had a home in Cody. We've always spoken about elk hunting and bow hunting, and I remember you were saying, "Oh, my shoulder, now I hurt my shoulder, and you're talking about shooting a bow and being able to pull back a 70-pound bow." And we were shooting in your garage, and I said, "Well, just lighten your bow."
I did,
and you killed this monster elk.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well,
and that success, because
I even had a recurve for a little while that I was shooting, and then the shoulder just couldn't do it, and I couldn't hold.
Right.
And but I got into hunting out west for big game, and it started with rifle and deer hunting, and with some guys that are dear friends of mine, Chris McCready, Jim Kirkpatrick, John Niebuhr. But anyways, those guys were all fishing clients of mine in the beginning, even McCready in the beginning. And then they said, you got to come out west and help with this. So I got into it, and it evolved into bow hunting. And I have a big passion for duck hunting too. I mean, I love the dog part and everything else, but yeah, so I ended up lowering the poundage of the bow with your recommendation, and you know, man, we were up on public land, a guy, Dan White and I, and Dan's got some places that are good to hunt. I couldn't even take you there today if I wouldn't know how to get there. He just, you know, say, let's go hunt up here, and we use his horses and everything, get up in there. And then if this big elk doesn't come in, and I couldn't tell if it was a grizzly or an elk coming in, because it wasn't even talking. He wasn't bugling. And a lot of elk were down on private land already, but probably this big bull was waiting for more cows to come in and would go down later. I imagine that's what he was going to do. And he came in, and as I was there, we had a camp set up, and we hiked down to a bottom, and this elk comes in, and there's a bunch of wallows in there and stuff. We dug out water for the horses and for ourselves. And get out of it, basically keep it scent free, get the horses out of there and everything. And man, this elk comes in and 30, 35 yards, and with that lighter bow, it went all the way through both lungs and this much of the fletching sticking out. And he just looked up and around and took about 5 steps and just
tipped over,
went over. And I don't, you know, it never worked like that before for me. Everything was so hard. Right. You know, you put on so many miles and hiking and walking and, you know, losing a bunch of weight and everything. And then all of a sudden something like that, it
was a monster.
And it kind of falls in your lap. But, you know, you practice your shooting and everything else. And I guess sometimes a tarpon falls in your lap too, you know, every now and then. You know, but there was a lot of work to get to that point, and I'd missed before and everything else. And then I drew that tag again and got another one, right? It's like kind of and that's the one the bear opened up, and, you know.
Yeah, tell me about the bear issue.
Well, there's a couple of them, but
didn't a bear find your animal?
Okay, a bear
took ownership.
I got it. I got an elk, and I hit him on the probably liver, and he stood there for a long time. It was raining in the afternoon, and he stood there for a long time. You were thinking he was going to just go down, you know, and it's getting dark, waiting. I'm with 2 other guys, and you know you're losing blood because the rain's washing it away.
You can't trail him.
And then we look over, and here's a grizzly. There's a grizzly.
And your bear's still standing.
My elk's sitting there. The elk's sitting there, you know, kind of sick. Here's a bear. And we know it's bleeding, but blood's getting washed by water. We were like, and then the elk just kind of walks off. Maybe it sensed that bear. And then I decide, okay, it's now. I got to go look for it, because he may have bedded down and be right. And I went looking, and he jumped. I bumped him. I said, we got to go. So we left and went back in the morning, and it was cold enough that the elk was, anyways, meat didn't spoil or anything. But because it got cold that night, snowed and everything. But anyways, we leave, come back in the morning. This time we bring shotguns and
bear spray.
And sure enough, we bumped that bear off the elk, and we know the elk was. I have pictures of the elk was half buried. He gutted the whole elk for me. He didn't touch any meat. He gutted the whole elk, and the elk was half buried. And, you know, we're taking it apart as fast as we can. We can hear the bear trying to come in. hey, get out of here, bear, bear, you know. And you know, you got one guy holding a gun, and other guys cutting as fast as they can. Let's get the hell out of here, you know. So we get out. We end up getting out of there, and bear probably got the rest of the carcass, you know. But yeah, that was only one spooky time. We had another time where I made a bad shot at one, and two friends of mine got charged, and one of them was on his back, and the bear was trying to bite him, and he sprayed him in the mouth and in the face with bear spray, Dan White. And he sprays another friend of mine, Mark McCarty, and Mark goes tumbling down. It gets hung up in a tree, luckily, because it was a big drop off in this draw. And Dan had slobber all over his shirt mixed with bear spray. It was just insane. And so I saw all that happen. I took one side of a draw. They took the other side of the draw. And the deal was, you see the elk, cow call. So I'm up on top of this other side of the draw. I'm looking down, and I see antlers. And I said, oh, shit, there's my elk, So I cow call, and
sure.
And then they cow call back. And then I look across, and here comes this bear. His front, the big boar, his front legs are going in back of the back, and the backs are going in front of the fronts. And he is just coming fast. And Dan, hey, bear, he's yelling, and there wasn't any time.
Right.
I don't know how these guys could do it with a pistol or even a rifle that well if it's coming that quick. I just don't. I'm not that good. I mean, that was something that happened. It happens that quick. And Dan, as he's got the bear spray out, and Mark was trying to get his, but he had the snap on it. He had it snapped in. And Dan was able to get his out, and the bear was about from me to you, and he falls back on a little side hill. He's on his back, and that bear is basically coming to bite him, and he's just letting him have it with bear spray in the mouth and the nose and the eyes. And man, he got out of the situation. He got out of the situation safely. The bear then went down that big steep ridge, and they're so athletic, it's amazing, and went up my side of the ridge and didn't want anything to do with me after being sprayed.
Right.
And got out of the situation. But it was the most intense thing I've ever seen in my life, for sure.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And Dan's just such a good outdoorsman, and
he just knew what to do, and thankfully he had the bear spray.
It wasn't his first time with bear interaction, but he's a guy who taught. If I could only remember half the stuff that guy's taught me. He was a biology teacher in Cody, and he spent so much time in the hills that he's pretty comfortable with everything.
Where do you see for yourself over the next 10, 15 years?
Oh, I see myself to continue fishing. Who knows, though, man? You never know.
Are you still going to be chasing tournaments? You still like tournaments as much? The Tarpon tournaments are hard.
In 10 years?
Big runs down to the lower keys.
Yeah.
High-speed boats.
Yeah. In 10 years, no. No, I will not be doing tournaments in 10 years.
Maybe the permit tournament?
Yes.
Because that's a little bit so much easier on your body.
Yeah. And you're staying at home.
Right.
Yeah. I like to be with my wife and my dogs, and I don't know. I don't want to make those big long runs and beat myself up anymore. Right. As you get a little bit older, you're thinking about preservation a little bit more, Right.
And when you get to my age, there's nothing left.
but I mean, we do say we want to wear out, not rust out, but we also can't be stupid,
For sure.
But and there is a point where, I'm sure I'll always be a competitive type, as you are.
And you always want to stay in the game.
You want to stay in the game, but I don't think you have to fish tournaments to do that.
Right. I agree.
You can push yourself.
You know what? I'm out. I left the game a long time ago, and thankfully I've got my son Nicky to share my passions with. And I don't think I'd fish as much as I do now if I didn't have him.
Right.
I like to fish, but I love fishing with him.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be in the outdoors. I'm always going to be a fisherman, but at my own pace.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I just there will be a point in time where I stop the tarpon tournaments for sure. But I'm going to keep fishing. I love fishing. I love all types of fishing. It doesn't have to be tarpon bonefish permit. I love snapper fishing.
Cuda fishing.
I love cuda fishing. I love snapper fishing. I love looking for muttons or big yellow jacks. I mean, I like
just being out there.
I like fishing.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's with spinning rods, or fly rods or plug casting rods. I just like to fish.
And you like your friends.
I like
fishing with good friends.
Love it.
Yeah.
And family. You know, I have a good family. It's very involved, and my nephews, they love to fish, and my dad's who got me into fishing. So, and my brother, you know, he's into it, and so yeah, I think we all love to get down here around the end of July. We usually do that lobster diving, but then we fish, and that I look forward to that every year. It's like this family reunion of fishing, diving, and
you can open their eyes to your world.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you see that fire
grow
in a young man.
It's pretty cool to see, you know, these guys, what they've become, and when they started. Little kids like this they're wearing life jackets, you know, and now they're all in college and everything.
Now they're pulling your boat.
Now let them
now you get a cast.
Yeah, but let them pull the anchor and do all that good stuff. I used to trick them into having an anchor pulling contest, you know, and try and time. Okay, you did it in 30 seconds. You know, let's see if you could do it quicker. You know, you could get away with that for a little while. They're getting smarter though.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Doug, it's great having you on the podcast. You know, it's just so much fun having you in our lives. You know, it's just such a joy to fish with you and just to hang.
Well, it's always been a joy fishing with you and Nicky over there, who hasn't said much today, but I'll wait. He's just over there laughing at me right now. But
he'll criticize me later.
But we've had a great time together, and I know there'll be more to come
for sure.
All right, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nicky.
When I saw his West Side Story.